Are you comfortable? I don't mean financially. I mean, like, do you have a good cushion? Because this is going to be a long one. I'm here to talk about Grindhouse Releasing's 2-disc Blu Ray edition of William Grefe's 1974 William Shatner starring psycho thriller Impulse. This is an incredible set. A little while ago, Arrow Video released a William Grefe, very comprehensive, not complete, but comprehensive collection of William Grefe films entitled He Came from the Swamp. Few titles were missing from that, and people were saying, well, what about this and what about that? And William Grefe online said, other companies have licensed those, just you wait. We waited. Grindhouse Releasing has delivered an insane set. An insane set for an insane movie. Getting a little bit ahead of myself here, this set is basically the companion piece for the Arrow He Came from the Swamp. There is so much on this related to the career of William Grefe that wasn't on that other set, including bonus movies, bonus feature films that if you have one, you want the other. This is amazing. So the film itself, I'd never seen this. This wasn't an easy film to see for a long time. Impulse, starring William Shatner, Jennifer Bishop of the Maltese Bippy, Harold Oddjob Sakata, and Ruth Roman. Set in Florida, as most of the Grefe films were. Also has Bill Kerwin, Rooney Kerwin from the Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, stars in this opening title sequence, pre-title sequence, this opening flashback where we see partly how young William Shatner got crazy and maniacal and murderous, but I won't get into why. I'm not going to give you too many details here because this is really a fun one to see as it unfolds in front of your disbelieving eyes. So Shatner is a groovy 70s Lothario stalking Florida, meets up with Jennifer Bishop, falls for her, and he just happens to kill people here and there. He happens just to go a little bit mad sometimes. And he's a hustler, he's a grifter, and it's just wonderfully sweaty, sleazy 70s Shatner in Florida, going about all these cool, vintage locations. So if you're a fan of the 70s, there's a lot to look at. And this film was released the year I was born, and gives me a nice insight to what might have been going on in Florida, or certainly was with William Grefe and William Shatner at the time. So it's a great thriller. Shatner is really good in this. Sakata is cool to see him with dialogue, because we all know him as Oddjob from Goldfinger, who the most he ever said was, ah. And in this, he has dialogue, and he has some interesting scenes. He plays, Karate Pete. He drives a Winnebago at one point in the film with this banner on the side that says Karate Pete. So, I don't know if enough people watch this, perhaps the societal and cultural memory will shift, and he'll go from being Harold Oddjob Sakata to Harold Karate Pete Sakata. Film is 87 minutes long. We're going to go disc by disc on this. Disc 1 is the feature film and some extras. You can watch it with the original mono English soundtrack or the original mono French soundtrack, which I didn't do, but I would love to see what Shatner dubbed in French looks like in this film, because he's so suave and groovy. Suave, groovy French might be kind of an interesting way to watch it. Optional English captions on the film. The negative to the film was lost, it says at the beginning. So this is a 4K restoration from faded and damaged release print. You wouldn't know that from looking at the restoration because it looks really good. Maybe the color could be better. Maybe the skin tones could be better if they were working from a negative, but this looks really good. Like, if that disclaimer wasn't there, you'd be like, yeah, that's a good transfer of that movie. As I say, shot in Florida. And it's totally crazy, sometimes unintentionally funny, but never boring and shocking at times. Really good performance by the little girl who's in this film, who you would think would have gone on to do a lot of other things, but never did. And basically, it was originally titled "Wanna Ride, Little Girl," which is, you can see why they changed the title. And it was written by a guy who wrote like trashy like porn paperbacks, and there are some extras. They show a lot of his paperback covers. So the guy's a pedigree for sleaze who wrote this. And Shatner basically sees this girl walking to school, and he wants to give her a ride. She's looking to get a ride to the cemetery to visit the grave of her dead father. And one thing leads to another, and Shatner puts the moves to the mother, and then is trying to work, real estate deals with the potential mother-in-law he might have. And it's just wonderfully sleazy. I can't say that enough. It's not like really graphic or gratuitous really in any of what goes on. There's an amazing shot toward the beginning where, and again, I don't really want to give too much away, but this will be the last plot point I give you. Shatner kills a woman in a car and then basically pushes the car into a river or into neutral. And we see the car going down into the river or the lake from inside the car. And it's a point of view I don't think I've ever seen in a movie before. It's incredibly effective. And this was a low budget movie. Grefe worked in independent low budget cinema. And what he could do with ingenuity and what little money he had often puts to shame what people with a lot more money and resources have done. And that's a really cool shot if you're into the whole filmmaking thing. The extras. Okay, I'm a guy who in the DVD era loved Easter eggs. There used to be websites and there used to be websites and message boards for listing where Easter eggs were on a DVD. If you don't know what an Easter egg is, it would be something you would click on, secretly hidden on a menu where you'd click an arrow the right way and something would pop up, and that would be a special feature on a disc or a little bit of something extra that wasn't advertised and you had to kind of stumble upon it or know it was there to find it. Every disc release I get, I still go through every menu and go up, down, left, right, just in case. Nobody ever does it anymore. Apparently except Grindhouse Releasing, because this thing is loaded with Easter eggs. Just about every menu page on this has an Easter egg, so click around. I'll tell you where they are, but I won't tell you what they are because it's fun to find out. So the main page has an Easter egg. Special features on this are a commentary by William Grefe, the making of Impulse, that's... I didn't write down how long it was. There's a making of Impulse on there. Shatner saves Cicada. That's a minute and a half. The big story about this film is there's a scene in which something happens in the film and Harold Cicada was actually almost killed and Shatner saved him. That story is told many times throughout this 2-disc set. This is that footage with a commentary by Grefe, and then you can watch it again with a commentary by Shatner. There is footage of a 48th anniversary screening of the film at the Tampa Theater from November 2015. That's about a half hour. There is theatrical trailer A, that's a minute. There's theatrical trailer B, that's 3 minutes. That is, looks like it's recreated with the new transfer, but it uses the original audio. Bonus features are literally, because I thought this was weird, it says special features and bonus features. That's the same thing, isn't it? No, they mean bonus features as in bonus feature films. So on disc 1 of this Blu-ray set, you get Impulse. Impulse alone. A bare bones Impulse would be a really good release. Are you comfortable? Okay. There's a lot more on this. The Devil's Sisters from 1966, which Grefe says might be one of his best, if not his best movies that he's directed. 84 minutes, 4:3 black and white, very sharp transfer. Apparently the film had to be tracked down. It was thought lost. It was found somewhere overseas, but it was missing the last 8 minutes. So Grefe says up front, here's the movie, here's the situation of how it was made, here's what happened to it, here's how I found it. We don't have the last 8 minutes. So at some point you're going to see me again and I'm going to tell you how this movie ends, which is really weird, but it's a pretty good, really dark, gritty, sleazy, roughy, I guess you'd call it. Kind of like the stuff that Herschel Gordon Lewis or David Friedman was making around this time. So it's based on a true story, and basically a peasant Mexican girl answers an ad for, domestic housekeeper help and becomes forced into prostitution, basically. And it's her story of going down this dark road and eventually being taken into this, basically, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, basically taken into this barn where the stalls of this horse barn are all different members of this prostitution scheme that have misbehaved or are pregnant or something like that. And it's just really dark and grim, allegedly based on court documents. So it's not explicit, but it's just implied, but it's really kind of like grim. If you like movies like The Defilers and the stuff that David Friedman did, the black and white roughy stuff, this is right in that category. There's a lot of gate float and some focus breathing in and out, starting around the 1 hour mark in the film. So it's not hard to watch by any means. It just looks like a print that is the print that's the known extant print of this film. You get Devil's Sisters Resurrected intro, that's 3 minutes. Commentary by William Grefe on the film. Devil's Sisters Revisited, that's 9 minutes. Bill Grefe and the Devil's Sisters, that's a minute and a half. Sisters of the Devil radio spot, just flip that title around, 13 seconds. It's great because it was an ad campaign post Rosemary's Baby. I love this kind of thing. They reissue the film and they try to insinuate that it's got like something to do with the supernatural. Doesn't at all, but that was just great exploitation. Grindhouse ballyhoo in its day. You get a Devil's Sisters still gallery that just plays through. It's a minute and a half. The jewel in the crown of the extras on disc 1 are what I'm about to discuss next. This is a film I think I had seen an ad for. Maybe it's referenced on the Arrow set. I never thought I would see it. It is a film from 1973 entitled The Godmothers. So The Godfather came out in, what was it, 72, I believe. The Godfather came out and was huge and led to this endless string of ripoffs, knockoffs, retitling, spoofs, comedy albums that were spoofing, Don Corleone and the mob and the mafia and all that. And this movie falls into that category. Grefe was a director for hire on this film. He did what he was told to do to make it happen. They knew Grefe was known as a guy who could make a film happen on a low budget as long as you listened to him and did what he said. And 77 minutes. It's presented in 4:3. It's a little splotchy and faded, sort of probably standard definition transfer. It's again probably the only way you're going to see this movie. It was produced by a guy who apparently never had made movies before, written by and starring Mickey Rooney. If you know anything about the legend of Mickey Rooney in his showbiz life, probably not always the easiest guy or the most humble guy to deal with. And it stars Mickey Rooney, Frank Fontaine, who is known as playing a drunk on the old Jackie Gleason show, Jerry Lester, who has worked with Jerry Lewis a lot and was a nightclub comic, Billy Barty. My eyes perked up when I saw Billy Barty's name in the credits, and Joey E. Ross, who was mostly known for saying ooh ooh on Car 54 and also being kind of a crude nightclub comic. So story here is that it's super broad and muggy. And by muggy, I don't mean humid, which it probably was when they shot it in Florida. Muggy, I mean it's a lot of I'm not even exaggerating. Frank Fontaine plays the Godfather, and the whole time he's going in his dialogue and with a bad fake Italian accent. His overweight daughter is looking for a husband, and Frank Fontaine basically has a lineup and says, "We need to find my daughter a husband." And Mickey Rooney basically gets picked. And he doesn't want to be the husband of this daughter of the Godfather. So it's just a lot of, I don't even remember what the story was, honestly. It's a lot of over-the-top Italian cliche and comedic performances that might have worked. The whole movie feels like it might have worked 20 years earlier. It might have worked in the 40s or 50s, maybe early to mid-60s, maybe, on TV. But as a movie, it is so corny and so hokey and so baggy pants vaudevillian. And no offense to Grefe, who I think is great, but it's not terribly dynamically shot and cut and presented so that it just sits there flat. There is a song that Mickey Rooney wrote for the film that's performed once or twice in the film in this big lavish production number. It's cool to see Florida in 1973. So the thing about low budget movies is a lot of times they're not always working on set. So if they go to a restaurant, they go to a restaurant. If they go to a store, they go to a store. Gas station's a gas station. So you can see what the world looked like back then. That's cool. I believe it is a set, the apartment that Jerry Lester and Mickey Rooney inhabit. And they're like, I guess they're supposed to be vaudevillians, which leads to why they are dressing up in drag repeatedly throughout the film, which is supposed to be funny and never really is. So it's our heroic duo in drag, dressed as ladies, as wax, as military ladies, or as this or as that. The best moment is Mickey Rooney and Jerry Lester as geisha girls in a Japanese restaurant. It's Mickey Rooney kind of going back to his glory period, I guess, of the role he had in Breakfast at Tiffany's. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, with the novelty giant teeth and the really bad accent. But although the accent they used did make me wonder if it inspired Jerry Lewis's accent as the caricature Japanese hibachi chef in Hardly Working, also shot in Florida about a decade later. And they keep referring to the Polish Connection. So it's a riff or a reference or a spoof of the French Connection. We got to find the Polish Connection throughout the film. There are moments where there's sped up running around to ragtime piano and cutting to Keystone Cops footage, wacky cartoon sound effects throughout the film. It just never works. It's just, to me, it's aggressively not funny. It might be funny in how not funny it is, but it is an amazing relic of the time. It's an amazing vanity project for Mickey Rooney. It is this bizarre thing that was sold as a kid's film. There's nothing really, aside from the racial stereotype stuff, there's nothing really offensive in it. It's really it was a G-rated film. The original poster even makes use of the letter G in it, and it has some tagline in the poster about, parents, children, make sure your parents have permission to come see this, or something like that, or kids have to give their parents permission to come along. And it's got a really good score, like a really cool, funky score, but it's just a bizarre artifact, and I'm so glad that it's on here. It's got an intro by William Grefe, an intro or apology by William Grefe at the beginning that's 4 minutes, and an Easter egg as well. It is bizarre. If you're a fan like I actually posted a link to this in a little pre-review in the Gilbert Gottfried podcast. Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast was devoted to weird old showbiz and stories of weird showbiz extremes and chicanery, and this movie is so made for the Gilbert crowd. So if you're a fan of that podcast or on that Facebook page, you want to get this set. People actually did say, I bought this set now to see The Godmothers. So at long last, The Godmothers is available on commercial home video, legit commercial home video in America. So that's disc 1. Disc 1 alone would make this an amazing set. Disc 2, I believe somebody said, is at least 15 hours of content. I'm going to dig into it, not incredibly deeply, but I'll tell you everything that's on here is mind-blowing. Disc 2 is the Impulse Extras disc. So you get, it's broken down into sections. So we'll go section by section and then what's in them. Interviews. Between the Treks, Shatner in the 70s. This is 26 minutes. It's a really good, very respectful look at Shatner's slightly pre, but mostly post-Star Trek career in the 70s. That's hosted by C. Courtney Joyner, who had worked with Shatner on some projects. Kingdom of the Shatner, William Shatner, live in Santa Monica, October 9th, 2022 at the Aero Theater. It is a 64-minute Q&A after a screening of a couple of Shatner films. I think they did, Kingdom of the Spiders was definitely one that they ran. They may have run Impulse as well. He talks about Impulse in the interview. He gets really philosophical. It's mostly just Shatner talking. Doug Hobart, The Corpse Speaks. This is a 34-minute interview with somebody who worked a lot with Grefe, and he just plays a stiff in a casket in a brief scene in Impulse, but he talks all about that and just their collaboration in general. The extras on disc 2 really are as much about the overview of William Grefe's career and independent filmmaking, low-budget filmmaking in Florida, as it is about Impulse, which is fine because everything you can want to know about Impulse is covered on this, but there's just so much more. You get Bill Grefe is Furious. It is a 78-minute interview with Bill Grefe on all manner of topics. He's not really furious. He gets a little ticked off about a couple things, but not bad. Bill's Miami Stories, 24 minutes. Bill's Sea Stories, 43 minutes. Bill Grefe 2011 interview is 12 minutes. Live and Let Die News Report. It's an 80s, 90s retrospect about the shooting of Live and Let Die in Florida, which Bill Grefe was second unit director on and did a lot of the cool stunts. And that is, it's really cool to see. 2.5 minutes. Legend Award. Bill Grefe wins a Florida Filmmaking Legend Award, 9.5 minutes. And then there is an Easter egg there. Filmmaking seminars. This is in 3 parts a filmmaking seminar that Bill Grefe did in Florida several years ago. Video quality is really weird. It's like 4:3 letterbox, so it sits kind of small on your screen, and it has this weird horizontal line thing. I think it was probably shot either super low definition or it was maybe on a weird format, but it's about the content. It's about the audio. I didn't really look at it the whole time. It's Bill Grefe at a podium in an amphitheater or in a theater somewhere against black. So it's not visually interesting, but the audio quality is, the audio content is. So session 1 is 2 hours and 5 minutes. Session 2 is an hour 43 minutes. Session 3 is 80 minutes, and there is an Easter egg there. And it's just nitty gritty, down and dirty, warts and all, bare bones on independent filmmaking, how to make a film, how to hire actors, how to deal with financing, how to distribute, how to edit. I mean, it's just, not physically how to edit every shot, but it's really nitty gritty on what this man has learned over decades making successful films. Industrials. These are a few industrial films. Bill Grefe moved into making films for corporations and things like that. Bacardi Shatner, which I think might be excerpted or available on either the He Came from the Swamp DVD, which was They Came from the Swamp, which was a documentary about William Grefe that was initially an independent video release included on the Aero set. I think this might have been an extra on there. It was for a while, William Grefe was making industrial promotional films for Bacardi, for their alcohol, and he hooked up with Shatner for a few of them. So it opens with Shatner like acting as a pirate in some kind of a pirate movie, and then he knocks off work and he talks to his co-star, and he winds up getting an invitation to the Bacardi plant because they're shooting near the Bacardi plant, and it becomes a tour of the Bacardi factory and how it's made. Looks like video transferred to film, a little bit fuzzy, but a lot of fun. Fame with William Shatner, that's 12 minutes, and it's about this organization Grefe was starting to it was basically an independent filmmaking organization. So Shatner's the host of that. Similar to that on the same track is Investing in Movies with Lauren Bacall. That's 23 minutes. She basically introduces an interview with William Grefe and an incredibly stiff interviewer lady about independent filmmaking and financing and home video and where the markets are. And as a nitty-gritty look at the kind of aspects of filmmaking the movie goers don't usually get, I thought that was really interesting. And there's an Easter egg on that page. Short films. Most of these were shot on digital video in the 90s. You have Thumbs, that's 6 minutes. You have Iceman, that's 5 minutes. And then two that were not shot by William Grefe, but are featuring William Grefe. One is A Cask of Amontillado, which is the Poe adaptation, 9 minutes. It's William Grefe, sorry about that. The earth shakes when I speak the name of William Grefe. It is a nice send-up of it's William Grefe as himself. Basically, he's with a younger guy or younger filmmaker, and they're talking about horror movies, and William Grefe is pining for the old days. He's a little bit of the back in my day, and these are the real movies, and this other guy's like, no, man, Hostel, and Eli Roth, and torture porn, that's where it's at, man. And then it basically cuts to William Grefe walling this guy up in his shed, like knocking him out and walling him up in his shed. He's like, you like that crap? I'm going to wall you up in the shed. I thought it was pretty funny. Then there's something called Underwood. This is interesting. It's 21 minutes. Grefe is simply an actor. It is a condensed version of an independent feature film that was originally 90 minutes. And they don't say that, and I wish they did, because it doesn't make any sense when you watch this. You watch it, and it's this young woman who's a writer, and she comes to a rural town, and Grefe is this guy who runs the local general store, and she comes back again later, and it feels like things have happened, and then all of a sudden it becomes this like murder thriller, and it just jumps, and it doesn't make any sense, because you are just seeing the scenes that Grefe is in from a feature-length film, and you're not seeing the entire story, but you get the end credits for that film, which refer to all these other people and all these other places. So I wish there had been something in there. Maybe there is in the, actually there isn't. I don't think there's anything in there that tells you that. So I'm telling you that. It's just a condensed version of a film. Still galleries. You get production stills, 16, press stills, 46, Drive-In Delirium newspaper ad gallery, that's 5 minutes set to music. You get 11 stills from the video release. You get 10 Bill Grefe stills. You get 24 revival stills. You get cover art by Dave LeBau, and that shows you how he basically did the cover for this. That's 22 stills, and you get an Easter egg. Grindhouse releasing previews. You're still comfortable, right? Okay. I'm going to run through these. I believe these are all things that Grindhouse Releasing has released or are going to release. Grindhouse doesn't put out a lot, but when they do, they're obviously really, really good additions. Death Game, Hollywood 90028, which I know is coming. Bogard, Scum of the Earth, Love is Deep Inside, Ice House, Family Enforcer, Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, Masker Mafia Style, Gone with the Pope, Pieces, The Beyond, Cat in the Brain, Corruption, An American Hippie in Israel, The Swimmer, The Big Gun Down, The Tough Ones, I Drink Your Blood, and an Easter egg that I won't tell you what it is. Disc production credits has an Easter egg on it. There is another Easter egg on the main page. So I'm not going to tell you what they are, but there's a lot of Easter eggs, which total, I mean, the Easter egg on the main page is 20 minutes long. So it's not just like somebody coughing on camera. This is a lot of stuff. So I've told you all of the contents. I'm going to show you the packaging, then I'll release you back to your day. This has already exceeded a television half hour in 2024. So you get the cover with new artwork, and that's embossed, so it's nice raised. So if you ever wanted to feel the contours of a crazed William Shatner's face, you can do that, or a strangling. There's no contour. A strangling Harold Karate Pete Sakata is flat, and a crazed Rooney Kerwin is flat, unfortunately. So this is it's a slipcase, more than a slipcase, slip cover. So you get the intro stuff on the back, and then it slides out like so, and we get alternate cover art on the front and back. We've got a clear case, you know what that means. We crack it open, and the discs are nestled in one atop the other like that. You get this gorgeous art of Shatner from the opening scene, the opening credit sequence of the movie, looking incredibly groovy. At first I thought that was him from the Rocket Man video, but it's not. It's him from the nightclub watching a belly dancer at the beginning of the film. And then we get a little bit of a booklet, which I don't want to tear because this is my copy and I loved this release and I don't want to hurt it. So a little bit of a booklet that has writing on it, chapter index on the back, and it is writing by, does it say on here? This is Jacques Boireau, and from October 22. It's so it's a lot of pictures, a lot of ad mats from the film and stills. It's a cool little, and some saucy book covers that from the author that wrote the movie. Written in a little bit of a weird style that I found a little bit hard to read, but interesting take on the film and information. And then it is a reversible cover that reverses. So on one side, as it comes retail, that's on one cover, and it reverses to be the what's on the slipcase, the newly commissioned art. So as you can tell, I loved this release. This is an essential release. If you're a Shatner fan and you're cool with his weird movies, if you like Kingdom of the Spiders and Devil's Reign, you need to have Impulse. If you like William Grefe films, you're going to want this. This is the definitive. I can't imagine this is ever going to see another release, let alone better than this. If you love exploitation films, 70s drive-in films, this is an essential release. You get 3 feature films on this and dozens of hours. Let's say dozens of hours. That's probably inaccurate, but a lot of hours. It took me better than a week to sit down, long hours, to watch all this. This is an amazing release. I'm going to call this, as of I record this, this is the Blu-ray release of the year so far for me. This is unbelievable. From Grindhouse releasing William Grefe's 1974, dare I say, masterpiece of exploitation cinema, Impulse.